Hello, today we are discussing drawing hands, and what we just completed was drawing out this diagram in our sketchbook. There we identified different parts of the bones of the hand. Thinking about in the wrist, we have this group of cluster of bones those are called carpal bones. Extending from the top of our wrist to our knuckles here are metacarpal bones. There are those in all of our fingers. And then we have our proximal phalanges, our middle phalanges or intermediate phalanges, and our distal phalanges, 1, 2, 3, and each one of these 4 fingers. And your thumb has only proximal and distal phalange over here. Now, what we just also discussed was this curve of our knuckles and the curve of the tips of our fingers, because sometimes people often draw those in perfect lines. That is what we want to start not doing as we continue on. What we are about to do is an activity that will be helpful later as a tool for our exercises. So, what you are going to do, we are going to take our chalk pastels. I want you to open them. Did anyone sneak a peek at the slides? Okay. We are going to be turning our non-dominant hand into a skeleton hand today. What that means is you are going to take black chalk pastels, and white pastels, and we are going to trace the bones of our hand on top of our hand. In the end, it's going to look really creepy, but be a very helpful tool for an activity in a few minutes. So, what you guys need is the black chalk pastel, your non-dominant hand flat on the table, and to begin this, you can grab a paper towel if you want, but it's not required. I don't know if it's going to do much, but yeah, we'll put it below. If you have any rings or a watch or bracelet on, just either you can take it off and put it aside, or you can keep it on. You just might get some stuff on it. All right, with that black pastel, to start, we are going to put dashes at our knuckles right on top of our hand. Now, where the proximal phalange meets our metacarpal, you're going to feel there's a little space in between there. That's where I'm sliding this pastel. Now, between your proximal and middle phalange, I'm going to also, on each finger, do a little dash at each joint. Between my middle and distal phalange, I am also going to find that knuckle, and I'm going to put a dash there, 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 and there. Don't forget about your thumb. Where that metacarpal meets your proximal phalange, you're going to want to put a dash-ish shape and a dash there too. Now this right here shows that beautiful curve that we have of our knuckles that mimic the curve of the tips of our fingers. Those angles exist there. How are we doing so far? Let's make some creepy bones now. To start, you are going to, let's begin at the base right here of our phalange. You are going to create a curved line going inwards and then outwards on your first pointer finger. And then you're going to do the opposite direction just like this. And then you're going to do it from on your middle phalange. Kind of feeling that as we go. And I just like to do a little bit outside my fingernail, just like that. So when you see that, you see how, see how that's almost identifying those sections there a little bit more clear. We're going to do the same thing on all of these fingers, kind of putting those curved lines in between those dashes. And then I need to do the thumb as well, which has only those two phalanges. With the side of your pastel, you can even shade in a little bit of the sides of your fingers, so that illusion that it's just bone. Oops, it's fragile. This does come off, guys, don't worry. Ooh, starting to look creepy. How you guys doing so far? Huh? Guys see? Guys see? Oh. Okay. Now, lifting your fingers off the table. I want you guys to feel you have your bone, you have some ligaments from your knuckle to your carpal bones down here. Now, what you're going to do, we're going to start at the pinky, and we're going to just kind of, with our other hand, you can kind of, I know there's stuff on it, but we're going to feel where that metacarpal bone is. So we have it extending kind of on the outside. I'm going to trace where I feel it. You might have to press hard to find it, but I'm going to trace that right there, find the other side of that bone, and I'm going to trace it down to my carpal bones. And where this little knob thing is on your wrist, we can just put a little line there. You're going to do another line from your ring finger down to your wrist for that metacarpal bone. Feeling your middle finger going down between your middle finger and your pointer. You're going to do another line. And then this angle of your pointer finger to your wrist is a little bit more inwards. And then your carpal bones to your thumb. You have that guy there too. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shade in that space to create that illusion that I'm having now a skeleton hand. And as we get to our carpal bones, you guys can just I like putting a line here just to identify where they start. And if you want to start doing, little guys here, you don't have to do it exact, but just kind of some shapes. Now, something to be aware of, we'll talk about bones of the body in a little bit, but did you guys know that your radius bone, when your palm is facing down, starts right here and then goes to the outer part of your elbow, while your ulna bone starts right here and twists underneath your radius bone and goes to the inside of your elbow. Now, your bones are twisted, your radius and your ulna are twisted because that gives you the ability to untwist them and flip your palm upright. Ooh. So that's kind of cool. So you can kind of feel where those bones are. I mean, you don't have to go all the way up your arm, but if you want to, for fun, that's kind of cool to feel that radius bone and how that goes over top of that ulna bone when our palm is facing down. Starting to look creepy, right? Now we're gonna have even more fun. I'm gonna wipe my fingers off a little bit on my paper towel because I wanna grab that white, a little piece of white, and we are just going to add some highlights to our bones. Make it extra fun. It's funny, sometimes after I do this little exercise with students, maybe like a day later, I see that students do it again with like pen or marker. They would just walk around with their hand as a skeleton hand. Kind of funny. All right, so, we have our tool to help us with some sketching. So again, we did our non-dominant hand for a reason. I want to show you how this can be helpful as you visualize different positions of the hand when you're sketching. So different perspectives. You want to think about not just the outside lines that you see. You want to think about where those joints are, where the angles are. So if you see, you know, if I do a peace sign, I'm not going to see every single bone or every single finger. Oh, yay! Okay. So, if I'm just resting my hand like this with my fingers curled, you can think about drawing this hand as a skeletal hand first and then add the flesh around it. For example, what I like to do when I'm drawing a hand, and I'm going to draw not from my viewpoint over here, I'm going to draw from that viewpoint there. So this might be a little tricky. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with those carpal bones. And I'm just going to put like a little cluster of them right here, thinking about where that wrist bone is. You know, I can just think about those are the carpal bones. Now, when I'm drawing a hand, you want to think about the direction of those metacarpal bones from the wrist. Now, they kind of fan out, but they go, depending on the positioning, it might be angled. You know, I'm going to use my pencil and I can actually line it up with that metacarpal bone, bring it over, and place a line. I can place a line for the next metacarpal. And it's going to be like this. And the next metacarpal. And how long do I make them? Sometimes what I like to do is I like to place the knuckles wherever I see them. And that kind of like as I'm going, I can place those knuckles in relation to each other. See how I'm looking at this as a circle. A little bit down and to the right is this as a circle. A little down and to the right. And then I have my carpal bone here. And I'm going to place a line representing this right here. So I'm going to measure that angle, bring it over. And this is going to be, notice how this joint now is lined up with this joint. So right below this circle, I'm going to put a circle there. It looks pretty terrifying and weird right now, but you're going to see it come to life in a moment. Now, again, you can either draw the parts of the phalange, or you can place the knuckles that you see in relation to each other. So looking, I'm going to do the knuckle technique where I'm going to have this circle here for this knuckle, and up and to the right, I have this knuckle. So up and to the right, I have this knuckle. And then from my ring finger, I'm going to go up and further to the right. So it goes up and further to the right. And I'm going to put that about right here. And then I can connect that proximal phalange as I go. And then I see a little bit of this knuckle. I don't see that knuckle, but I have a little bit of this knuckle. And a little bit of this knuckle. And then my thumb, I have the metacarpal, so I'm going to do that other joint. So this might get a little confusing as you go, but notice how you're being intentional about metacarpal, and then the joint that meets that, and the proximal phalanges, joint that meets that. You have middle phalanges. I see only a few visible in my sight. And then I have the distal phalange in just a few spots. This is going to help you because when you're looking at this, watch this come to life. You have, starting at the pinky, I can start up here or wherever I can start, but now I can fill in the outlines of the hand, wrapping around those knuckles, wrapping around those knuckles, wrapping around those knuckles, and then I have some spaces in between, so I'm going to start putting that flesh in between, thinking about the placement of the knuckles. Remember, you want to remember every part of the finger. Sometimes people forget there are that many joints. As I get down here, think about this. And now I can start thinking about that outline, that contour line. Now give yourself some grace. This is your first time doing this technique. So if it doesn't look like mine up on the screen, that's okay. Also, remember, I draw a lot. And just like anything, it takes a lot of practice. And you can see that taking shape. Okay, now it can be simplified and you guys will have time to clean up in a moment, but sometimes when you're doing quick sketches of hands, sometimes people like to start with the placement of those carpal bones, and they do like a spatula shape for those 4 fingers, just like a spatula curve, spatula, and then that other thumb will come out this way. Then people might do, you know, each finger, whatever direction they are, and then they can go in and simplify, you know, adding those fingers, and then that thumb. And you see how that can be just a quick representation of a hand, and simplifying without doing the circles for the joints. But doing maybe like a curve line for the representing those joints. And you can do that for whatever position. You know, if I want to do it like spread out, I can have, again, that spatula shape, carpal bones, curve of this finger, curve of this knuckle, and then you can have 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, and then you have your fingers going out there. So, little tricks. You guys, you have a little bit of time, but something to keep in mind as we move forward. Thanks for watching, those that were watching this video.